Okay, Python for data analysis. So today we'll be looking at we'll continue with the data types, and we are actually we'll be doing coding today, and you will see how the various data types can be can be written or can be coded, or how to code them. All right, so let me quickly open up my terminal. That is command prompt. Type command prompt, okay? And to start Python, all right, so my Python is ready to fly. He said what? Like exe? No. No. Python is a programming language. So you can, instead of Python having those things, rather you can use Python to build ribbons and tabs. So Python gives you what? It gives you the power to code anything you want to code. Excel was written by a programmer. So you too, as a programmer with what? With Python, you can also code something similar to that. Exactly. So this is, like I told you before in the introduction, I said that Python is a what? Is a multi-purpose high-level programming language. And by virtue of that, Python can be used for various what? For various things. Example, you can use it for web development. You can use it for software development. You can use it for mobile app development. You can use it for data analytics. And you can also use it for what? For ethical hacking or cyber security. And also, one of the most important aspects or uses is what? Is for artificial intelligence. Yes. Most of the things you are seeing, most of the artificial intelligence you see today are based from what? Python. For instance, when you log into Facebook, sometimes Facebook asks you, they have this face recognition feature. I don't know if you've ever encountered that before, or you use Facebook. Maybe they ask you, okay, can you confirm? Can you put the camera in front of your face? Let's confirm. Yes, so that is face recognition. That is Python. You can achieve that with Python. So a lot of things can be done with Python. That is why it seems to be one of the most rapidly growing languages in the world. All right, so now to continue, if you can still remember, we have been able to examine the various types of what? The various types of data type, the data types in what? In Python. And so what we are going to be doing, we are going to be coding them, and we are going to be what? Verifying them using type. So now let's start with the first one. Let's start with the numeric data types. I'm trying to see if I can increase this. There's a way I can increase the size of this. Okay. Seems it's not easy. All right, so this is a little bit bolder and legible. Okay, so, and I believe you can see my screen, right? All right, so now we are going to continue. And what I'm going to do is that we are starting with the numeric data types in Python. When we talk about the numeric, we are talking about the ones that have to do with number. All right, and if you can still remember, we mentioned some of them, and one of them is what? Integer. So these are what we'll be looking at. One of them is integer. So we're looking at it. So now I'm going to like declare a variable. And remember, when we are declaring a variable in Python, we don't need to use any keyword. Just write the name of the variable. For instance, I can say num1, that is the name of my variable, equal to, I can write any number, let's say 50. And now when I say print num1, print num1, I should be expecting the return of 50, right? Good. But now I want to verify what data type is that 50. So we can say print, and here we say type, and then we say num1, and then we hit the button. Did you see what it has given us? It belongs to the type of what? Integer, that is int. All right. So this is example. This is an integer. Hope your terminal is open, right? And you're also practicing as I'm doing it, because that is the way you can validate your knowledge when it comes to programming. The only way you can be sure that you know it is to do it. If not, it will just be based on assumption. So now I'm going to enter another number. I'm going to declare another variable. But before that, I want you to also, just to refresh your memory, when we did variables, we are meant to understand that we can actually reassign another value to what? To a variable. That means we can change the value of a variable. All right. And just like the way we have made use of variable now, num1, we can actually reassign the value again. So I can say num1 equal to, let's say 5.0 or 5.5, 5.5. In this case, I'll say print num1, print num1. Now it's printing what? 5.5. So that is the new value. So the value is no longer 550. It's now 5.5, because that is the new value I've assigned to it. So now let me verify what kind of data type is this 5.5. So I'm going to say print num1, type num1, then close. So num1 is a what? The data type is what? Is float. So if you still remember, when we looked, well, the first time we discussed about data types in Python, we said something about integer, that integer is any whole number without a decimal point, any whole number, whether positive or negative, if you could still remember. And we also said that a float is any number that has a decimal point. whether positive or negative. So as you can see, the current value of num1 is 5.5, and that is why we are getting the return as float for the data type. So now, let's continue with the last data type when it comes to numeric data types in Python. So we have another data type which we call complex. All right, please, I want you to understand the way they are written, these data types. If you check, you discover that the integer is what? Is whole number. Float is what? Any number with decimal. Now we want to write complex. So I'm going to say num1 equal to, let's say 7j. All right, 7j. And in this case now, I want to print num1, and it has returned 7j. So the new value of num1 is now what? Is 7j. All right, so what kind of data type is this 7j? Let us verify. So I say print type, and I say num1. All right, so now look at it. The data type of num1 is what? Is complex. As you can see, the data type is what? Is complex. So that means we have a data type in Python that is called complex. All right, and from what you can see, these are the what? Numeric data types we have in Python. That is number 1, integer, number 2, float, number 3, complex. These are the numeric data types we have in what? In Python. Now that brings us to another data type. And this time, I'm going to declare another variable entirely instead of modifying the num1 variable. So to declare that variable, I am going to say detail, or let me use another word. I can say name equal to, now because it's a text, it is going to be inside quotation. Name equals to, I can say John Dew. All right, so this is name. Now let us print name. I say print, then name, and then we have John Dew. Now what kind of data type is this John Dew? Is string, right? Okay, let us verify. So I'm going to say print, and I'm going to say type, and then I have what? Name. So hit the button and you get what? String, str, string. All right, so that is correct. Now I can declare another variable, and this time around, the variable I'm going to declare, I can say list list of candidates, equal to Then I open this, excuse me, I open this. I said, the first person is, yes, you can put if you like. That's the best practice if you want to, like, list of candidates, that is Kame notation. So equal to, now I said, I open this, and then I want to write a list of candidates. Let's say John Dew is number 1. Let's say we have Abraham Lincoln. That is number 2. Let's say we have another list, another John Kennedy, and let's say we have I'm like okay, so we have Obafemi Awolowo. Then I have another list, Nnamdi Azikiwe. Then we have another list, but you need to be careful so that you'll be able to see what is happening. I have another list. Let me just okay, let me just end it here because of the what we have. So let me end it here. So now this is also a data type in what? In Python. We have just declared a variable, but this time the data type is what we are going to find out. So now let's hit the button and then let us print, then say list of candidates. Oh yeah, get it printed. Now we have the list printed out. Can you see that? List of candidates are now printed out. So now let's verify what kind of data type is this. So let's say print, and we say type, and then list of candidates, and then end this. So tell us the type. So this data type is called what? List. So this data type is called list. This is how list looks like. Now we still continue. We are going to reassign value to this list of candidates. This list of candidates, you are going to reassign value. And I want you to pay key attention to this so that you're going to observe the difference between this data type and the next data type we'll be looking at. So let us continue. Eh? You're only saying tuple. That means you made a mistake somewhere. You've gone to do tuple instead of doing this. That means you didn't use square bracket here. You went and used the curly brackets. You use curly brackets. And it's giving you tuple, right? All right, now, and that's actually the next thing I wanted to examine now, that tuple. But I want you to understand their differences. But okay, let's do it. Now, what you're going to do next now, you're going to be doing the real list, all right? Why mean I'm going to do my own tuple? So we're going to use the same information, the same variable, we are not changing it. You understand? And we're going to use the same items inside here. All right, so let's do it. But your own now, you're going to use square brackets. But my own now, I'm going to use curly brackets. Are you understanding me? Do you understand what I mean? I understand what you mean. So, yeah. That is a square bracket without pressing any shift. You just make use of it. That is the square bracket. So let's see how we can do that. Let's do that now. And so I want you to observe the differences between them. That way, you'll be able to understand them. So I'm going to say list of candidates. So that same variable equal to, in my own case, I am going to make use of curly bracket, but it's going to be the same content. So John Dew, comma, Abraham Lincoln, comma, John Kennedy, comma, Obafemi Awolowo, comma, Nnamdi. All right, so this is my own, and I'm going to close it with another curly bracket. So now when I'm going to print, so I'm going to say print a list of candidates, candidates, and how this. So now it has printed the list of candidates for me, but now I want to verify the data type. So I say print type list of candidates. All right, so now what I have, my own is set. This is actually set, not that means what you use in your own was a normal bracket, not square brackets, not curly brackets. Okay, that's why you got tuple or tuple. So now in my own case, or you need to understand the differences, because we are going to use that now. I'm going to also, let me also enter so that I will not explain further. Let me enter my own tuple now making use of normal brackets. So, and so I'm going to say lists of candidates equal to, this time around, I'm going to use our normal brackets, equals to, so I'm going to say John Dew, comma, John Kennedy, comma, Obafemi Awolowo, comma, Nnamdi. John Dew, excuse me. I think after John Dew, we have Abraham Lincoln, and then we have John Kennedy. He said? Yeah, you use the normal bracket, yes. Obafemi Awolowo, then Namdi. All right, so now I'm going to print. So I say print. In this case, I say list of candidates, and I'll have this printed out for me. And then now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set the type. I'm going to ascertain the type. So I will say print, and I say type list of candidates. Excuse me. All right, so we hit the button. So now I have these data types listed, which is what? Tuple. Now, looking at this, you discover that the only differences between these three data types, that is list, set, and tuple, lies in the what? In the kinds of brackets that you use. If you use square brackets, it is going to give you a list. If you use curly brackets, it is going to give you a what? A set. Exactly the same way you write set in mathematics. Then if you use what? If you make use of our normal brackets, it's going to give you tuple. So you see that there are differences lies in what? In the type of brackets you use. So list, set, tuple, they have a lot in common. You use the three types of what? Yes. How many have you used? So use the, so now is many sets. That means you need to make use of curly brackets. And to use curly brackets, you press shift and you press this one. Okay, so we are continuing with the next data type. Hope you have been able to observe the differences between these three data types. They are similar, so that you don't get them confused. Then we have another data type we want to consider now. And we're going ahead now to say, excuse me. So I'm going to say, I'm going to declare a new variable. I can say data. I can say my data equals to, I want to declare a data type, and I'm going to have something like this. Frozen sets, and I'm coming inside here. So have this. All right, so now we can John Dew. We can have Abraham Lincoln. We can have John Kennedy. And we can have Obafemi Awolowo, and finally we can have Namdi. All right, so that is our data type. So now we're going to print. So let's get it printed out. So, okay. So hit my enter. I think all right, so now we're going to say print my data. Said the kind of bracket that I use as where? Yes. In fact, frozen set is a set that is inside a what? That is inside a bracket. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? That is why they call it frozen. So it's frozen inside a what? Inside is a set, but it's frozen inside a bracket. So that is why they say frozen set. You can see that it's inside the what? Inside the bracket. It's not a normal set. Look at this. The same thing. This is set. The same thing, but it's not inside a bracket. And to distinguish it, we need to make use of these keywords. Frozen what? Set. So now, let us print data type and hear what it's going to give us. So I'm going to say print, and I say type, and I say my data. All right, and we get the data type is frozen set. I want you to understand this data type so that when you see them, you don't get confused. Which one is this? In Python, you can declare variables. Your variables, you can use any of these data type as the value of your variable in Python. By the time we say print, it doesn't give you the same order. Good. At which point? For set. When I wanted... For set, right? You first observed it in the set, right? Yes. Okay. In that set, where we first, when you printed it, it didn't print in what? In the order we did it, right? Okay. So what it does is that set rearrange it, brings it out, or gives you the result in what? In alphabetical order. If you check, this is alphabetical order. So it returns the value to you and arrange it for you in alphabetical order. All right. So if you want a data that is sorted out in alphabetical order, instead of making use of, let's say for instance, instead of making use of a list, you can actually make use of a what? A set, because it's going to return it back to you in alphabetical order. Sort it for you. So you see why Python seems to be one of the most popular languages that people go for when it comes to data science and analytics, because it supports various data types, unlike some other programming languages. So now let's continue. We are going to look at another data type in Python. Okay, I'm not done yet. All right, so let's hold on for you a bit. Okay, so now let's look at the next data type. The next data type we want to look at now. So I am going to say my data equal to, I say range, and I can specify any number and hit the button. Now let's say print what? Print my data. So let's see what we are having. So now it printed a what? A range for me. Can you see? Starting from 0 to what? To 560 what? 7. All right, because I entered a data type range. So it gave me this. So now let's verify what kind of data type is this. So we're going to say print type, and then we say my data. All right, and it's going to give you range. So there is a data type in Python that is called range, and this is exactly how it is written. So that is all about range. You can see we have gotten a range. I've declared a range, any range between 0 and 567. All right, so now we are going to look another data type in Python. So I'm going to declare another variable now. So I'm going to say, or I'm going to continue with the old variable. I'm going to reassign value. So I'm going to say my data equal to my data equal to, let's say, bytes array byte array say bytes excuse me, my data equals to, let's say, null right, syntax error. My data equals to and so I'm going to say print type my data wow. Now look at what happened. It still printed a what? String, and there is nothing inside. Did I put anything there? Do you know why it printed a string? Thank you. Anything inside quotation, even if you write a number, if it's inside the quotation, it's going to return string for you. So anything that is inside quotation, it will be counted as a string, to be interpreted as a string. And that's basic. That's actually what we've just seen now. All right. So let's check another one. My data equals to bytes, say byte 56 or something, and let's say print what? Print my data and excuse me, print my data. Let me see again. Print my data. All right, so let's verify the type. Let me verify the type. I think let's verify the type first. Type equal type my data so it shows is a byte. So this data type is actually what we call bytes. And there is byte array, there is memory view. It shows the byte. And there is another one again. Let's enter this one. So my data equal to, I can say H, then bracket, hello, excuse me. Unexpected syntax error. So I say my data equals to H, hello. Is it? Equals to H. Before I got the byte. So I'm going to say my data equals to so let's say print my data exactly. So this is the correct one is B. You've gotten it, did you get it? So B is the instead of using H, all this place we use H was a wrong syntax. So the correct syntax is B, and that's why it's giving us this. You can see the what it printed, not these ones. These ones is not these are jargons. So now let me verify the data type by saying print and type. Then we have this my data. Now it has given us bytes. So the data type is bytes. All right. So now the next one we want to look at is another data type that we'll call byte array. So in this case, I'm going to say my data equals to my data equal to, I say bytes array. You can enter any number, so like 655, and then now we can print and see what it returns. So I say print, excuse me, print I say type, print type what? The type we are printing is my data. So it returns bytes. These are keywords. Please take notes. They are keywords in Python. All right. So is what when I told you about using capital letter is when you want to declare like a variable, you want to create a variable or a function, and you want to give it your own name. All right. And I told you can, for a best practice, instead of giving spaces or using hyphen, the best practice is you make use of camel notation. You understand? But you don't go and change keywords. This byte array is a keyword in Python. So the way it is written, that's where you must follow it. So that brings us to next data type. And the next data type we want to look at is what we call memory view. So I'm going to say my data equal to, I say memory view, and then open bracket, I say byte, and then I can specify any number 84 and then close this, right? Hit the button. So let's print this data, my data, and see what we have. Memory at blah blah blah, really. So let's try another syntax. Let's say my data equals to memory view, then let's say bytes instead of bytes, or let's say view. Let's say bytes instead of bytes. So let's say we have these, and then so that means this is a wrong syntax. This is actually correct. This first one is correct. So this one I just typed now is a wrong syntax. That is why it's getting said byte is not defined. So it's not. Did you mean bytes? Can you see that? It's asking me, did I mean bytes? Suggested the right one, which is bytes, that has as the plural form. And so this one is the correct one. So now let's go ahead and print type. Print type my data. So give me what? Memory view. And then the next data type we have is what we call bool, or you can call it Boolean. And it basically has to do with true or false. So I'm going to say my data. All right. Next data type we are considering is I'm going to say equal to I can say true. All right, now if you print my data, it returns true to you. Notice that we did not use what? Quotation mark. But if you type any other thing now that is not true or false without quotation mark, you are going to get syntax error. So why we get true? Because true is a data type and is a what? It's a Boolean. So now let's verify that by saying print. I will say my data, sorry, type rather. Type my data. You see that the type is bool. It's a bool. And finally, on the list of data types in Python, we have the what? We have the null. So I'm going to say my data equals to, I'm going to say none. That's giving me a syntax error. So say my data equals to none. So you see the differences now. Because I used small letter, that was why I got that error. Now I've used capital letter for the N, is recognized. So now I can print my data and see what I'm going to get in return. None, right? So let's verify what kind of data type is this. Let's say print, and then I have type, my data, and then it's going to give me the type. So the type of data type is what? Non-type. So these are all the data types we have. This is the data type, non-type. That is the data type. So we have exhausted all the what? All the data types in Python. Now, if you actually want to understand this, if you don't want to forget this, you need to practice. Like I said, like I always said, one of the ways you can validate your knowledge in coding and programming is by what? Practicing. You can't just assume you've known it by mere listening or watching me doing it. The only way you can validate your knowledge is by you doing it also. And you have to practice. You have to do it.